Welcome to Sister Sis. Hey, 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 welcome back. We have our second episode with our wonderful guest, Miss Tiffany Rochester. She's going over the importance of co-parenting. As you see in our first show, she is so very passionate about the subject. So tune in. Okay. So next question. You say you feel that self-healing is a big part of co-parenting and parenting as well. And I want to say or point out, when you say healing, self-healing, you're talking about the two parents healing from the situation, right?
Sometimes from the situation and sometimes from so much more, because so often the things that caused the relationship to fall apart were in place long before the relationship started.
Right.
We all pick up scars and messages as we make our way through life. None of us get through without any baggage. and again, society gives us this predominant message that we should be happy and we should seek to be happy all of the time, and anything other than that is not acceptable. It's suboptimal. We should reject that. So often we don't have people who know how to sit with distress, how to show up and notice what emotions are happening in their body. And instead, when an unwanted emotion comes up, it's like, oh, let's stomp down on that. Let's get that out of the way. Let's make that not happen. But our emotions, they serve this incredibly valuable purpose. They show up because there's something we need to know. There's something that's not okay for us. And so often the work in the self-healing is learning how to turn towards those emotions, how to say, like, hi, sadness, I wasn't really wanting you to be here today, but since you're here, can you tell me what you want me to know? Like, can I give you a bit of love? Can I send you a little bit of compassion? Because you hurt like hell. So I'm guessing you need some mega band-aids and just a little bit of time sitting on my knee. And the more that we can sit with our feelings, they're a bit like, when the children are, well, I was going to say when the children are really small, but my tall ones still do this. If they're having a big emotion and we don't respond, like what happens, right? It gets bigger. and it gets bigger. I remember when the children were babies, and that magic moment where you think you can just go to the toilet, and then you get to the toilet, oh, this is so good, I can finally get this way. And then they start to cry, and then you're like, but I'm here in the toilet, and actually I've also got to do a poo. And so then the child starts to cry louder and louder and louder. You're like, I just need these few minutes, right? And then as soon as you go out and you pick this kid up, well, then they can start to soothe because you've come back. But they had to keep getting louder and louder because they really needed your attention. It's what they've got to pull you in. Our emotions do the exact same thing. And so often we are so afraid of turning towards our emotions because we have these ideas that they're going to overwhelm us. They will be too much. I won't be able to cope. I won't be able to be present with my kids if I dare to have this feeling. And I would say that science doesn't back you up on that. And if we get really good at having our uncomfortable feelings, they don't have to get so large for us. And then they're able to move on because they feel seen and heard and validated. The same happens with those thoughts inside our heads. We take our thoughts way too seriously, and a thought turns up and we're like, that thought's there. That's pretty true. It says I'm a failure. It says I'm a bad mum. It says I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, and no one really likes me. And that's probably pretty true. So I should probably orient all of my behavior around those things and not go out and hide under the covers and what have you. But we can have a far more flexible relationship with our thoughts. And, I noticed each of you nodding while I was saying those things, and I'm not going to put you on the spot here, but I know that if I could put a microphone inside your heads, that I would pick up some of those stories. They are universal.
You will.
Stories. Right.
You will.
And how powerful is that to go, oh my gosh, well, here we all are. We're four women and we're all human together. We all have this voice that shows up sometimes. There's nothing faulty with us. There's nothing wrong. It just shows up. And imagine having that relationship where I go, oh, shoot, oh, my bad mum story's here today. Hello. You're not very useful for me. Are you serving me right now? Or you just want to talk to me about how I'm a bad mum? I'm just going to get on with being a good mum. Is that all right with you? Actually, I'm not going to ask you for permission. I'm just going to do it anyway. So when we're looking at that healing process, is about looking at, who do I want to be? What do I want to stand for? And then how am I going to take care of my uncomfortable feelings and my unwanted thoughts as I take bold steps forward towards the future that I choose to create?
Okay. So I don't think we really touched, Miss Tiffany. Give us your educational background, because you've had a lengthy career and you're so passionate when you're talking about this subject. Like, kind of give us the beginning of like kind of how it started and then how you got. You kind of did, but like, what was the background? Was it, family therapy, marriage therapy? What was it?
Yeah, so I have a bachelor's degree and master's degree in psychology. And so, yes, I spent most of my career being a psychologist, and then have moved more into the coaching space for co-parents, because there are lots of really excellent therapists and psychologists for doing the therapy work of the trauma and the grief that is often present in separating out across two homes. But the space that was lacking was the coaching skills, was how do we actually put this into action, the very practical work, and working with both co-parents together to be able to not put them in therapy when they've done couples therapy, marital therapy, but instead to look at, you don't need to be in therapy together. Just going to coach you in how to be really brilliant co-parents.
Great. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Okay, so I'm sitting over here probably the quietest one out of everything here today, but I am actually a single parent. So I'm really kind of just at awe and just listening and taking in everything that you said to us here today. So kind of a really exciting topic for myself, with me being a single parent and trying to co-parent with my son. I have a son, he's 17, trying to co-parent with my son's, father. Sometimes it can be really, really, a challenge. But can you explain to us the different foundational pillars that you go by in co-parenting?
Yes. So at Co-Parenting Companion, we have our 4 foundational pillars for excellent co-parenting, which is to reclaim, reconnect, reimagine, and redefine. And the reclaim is about that piece that we just spoke about. The reclaim is about choosing who you want to be on your terms. Not because who your mum and dad said you were going to be, not who society tells you you're going to be, not who your co-parent says you're going to be, but who do you choose to be for yourself, for your children, for the future that you are building. It's an essential place to start, because so often, particularly in the midst of a separation, there is so much focus on the other. And if there is a history of judgment and feeling blamed, or that your co-parent didn't see that you measured up to whatever standard they felt that she should have, there can be a lot of focus on, will this upset them? Will this please them? What's going to come back at me if I do this? And I would say that's putting all the attention in the wrong place. It doesn't matter what they are going to do anymore, because if you are centered around who you care to be, you're going to be exactly right. I don't know anybody who says, well, I choose to be hostile and difficult, and I really love being argumentative. If you've got values around being kind and loving and compassionate, then even whilst you're holding boundaries with the co-parent, you're still going to do that in that kind and compassionate way, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve it. So in our reconnect pillar, that's where we look at to be able to do that, to be able to stand in your strength, you have to be okay with all the parts of yourself. So all of the feelings as they show up, all of the thoughts as they show up, all of the parts of you that may have been neglected, left behind, forgotten for whatever reason, and not just because of the context of the relationship, but again, the things that may have happened in the lead up to that. So it's about really reconnecting with the inside parts of you.
Mhm.
In the reimagine stage, that's where we're looking at how do we want this to be going forward? We know the model that didn't work, but now anything is possible. Anything is possible. And so looking at, do we want to be the kind of co-parents, or do I want to be the kind of co-parent that can go to ball games and be beside my children's parent? Do we want to go on family holidays together? And if you don't want to, that's entirely okay. Like that's not a prescription for what you should be doing. The point is you get to decide, you get to dream about that, and then step through how to make that happen. And in the redefine, it's all about looking at what are those new boundaries that you're holding? What is this new world that you are building as one family across two homes? So across those four pillars, we have the full integration with the self, the sense of who you are in relation to your children and your co-parent. And what I love about it is that, quite honestly, it just sets you up for the rest of your life. No matter what you do, it's going to serve you well in all of your relationships. And that's really, I think, essential, that we look after the whole person.
Yeah, I think you touched on something there which kind of bagged up into one of the questions that Jamie had asked you about self-healing, because I think your self-healing seems like it ties into all of your four, pillars there. It's really important to have good self-care and make sure that you take care of yourself and you're healed properly, so that way you can exhibit that, off to your children, as well, which I do think is very important. What would you advise, like, for co-parents that are struggling with trying to co-parent with the other co-parent? Like, well, what would you advise for them to do for themselves?
Yes. So the first thing that I would say is stop waiting for your co-parent to change. Stop waiting for them to go to a course, pick up a book, engage with a therapist, go to a coach. Don't wait for your co-parent to change, because that is giving all of your power away. So then I would say, obviously I would say, come and have a look at what we do at Co-Parenting Companion, because this is all I, do from morning to night. It's all I think about, apart from obviously the children some of the time. But if not me, look for other co-parent coaching, look for resourcing and supports. We talk about taking a village to raise children. Look at who's in your village. We are not supposed to do this alone. So look for some resourcing and support. I think so much of the stuff that's available to parents tells people what to do. But Calandra, I don't think anybody needs to tell you what to do, right? I think we already know what we want to do for our kids. The question is the how. How do you do it when your heart is hurting? How do you do it when someone sent the most revolting email that is hideous, and you just want to fire back something that you know is not going to help? What do you do then? How do you look after you so that you can do the things that you know you want to do? We don't need to tell people what to do. We need to help them with the how. So looking for the resourcing and supports for that. I did have something I was going to come back to, and I completely lost it. So maybe it'll come back to me later.
That's okay. It's okay. I think it's important and healthy to exhibit, like what you said, the co-parenting in a healthy way with your because it shows not only just within the co-parenting sector, but also with your children. It shows them, like, outside of just even co-parenting, how to get along with others, even if something didn't work out. It's okay. It just didn't work out. That's what I always try to teach my son, because, like, even like I said, again, it's a challenge for me, because of course I can't control the other co-parent, within this situation. I can only control myself, but that's something I try to exhibit, to my son. Like I said, he's 17. Me and his father have we've been apart for a very, very, very long time. Majority of his childhood, he's moved on, he's gotten remarried, he's had additional children, but I accept them, and I try to teach him even to reach out to them, as well. But I hope that it goes beyond just the co-parenting part of it. I hope it goes beyond and just shows him how to be, an adult, and shows him how to be a good, man as well.
Yes,
Yeah, it's so much bigger than
completely.
just the co-parenting.
It absolutely is. And then I remembered what it was that I wanted to come back to as you were talking that through,
Yes.
is that, yes, is that when you stand in your strength like that, right?
Yes.
When you stand in your own strength and you parent according to your values, and that's what you also extend out to your co-parent, whilst you have no power over them, they get to do their own life.
Right.
Often they can't help but change. Like if
Right.
you're
True. That is
responding in
very
a
true.
timely way to their emails, or if you're
Mhm.
always kind, if you don't get caught up in fueling a conflict, it makes it so much easier to get a yes out of them. It makes it so much easier to bring them to the same table. There will have been so many things. Yeah, so you'll know that in an incredibly embodied way. There will be so many things that that you have done, that co-parents can do along the way, that would change their co-parent by accident, by byproduct.
Mhm.
And we don't have to care at all about how your co-parent is going in their career or with their friendships or what have you. That's done. They can make their own messes now. But by you standing in your own strength, they can't help but be an easier person for you to be in a co-parenting relationship with, because you're not contributing to things spiraling.
Right, right. And it also exhibits to the child, how they should conduct themselves, as they become adults as well. Yes, I think that's important. Yes.
Completely right, as you say, because what are we going to say to our kids if they get into a punch up in the schoolyard, or
Right.
they're going to deal with people that behave towards them their whole lives that in ways that they don't like, and we don't want them to be the ones that are that allowing their behavior to be shaped by somebody else. We want them standing in their strength too. Yeah.
Right. Right. So how do you feel that the court system support families?
Yeah, the court system does not support families. The court system is broken, and I outright reject it as a place for family conflicts to be resolved. There is a caveat to that, and that would be a population that we haven't talked about today, where there is a need to protect children or a parent from a violent or abusive situation, and I'm going to leave that to the side because that's a far bigger topic outside of the scope of this conversation. But lawyers are awesome at solving legal problems. Two people separating, that is a relationship problem. It is not a legal problem. So lawyers can be fantastic. They can be a really, really good resource. And one of the things that I would encourage anybody who is listening to this, who's stepping through this, is to look into collaborative practice. It is very large in the US, and it is growing in Australia, and yet I still don't know how commonplace it is. But in a collaborative process, the lawyers, the coaches, and the financial neutrals, who would be an accountant or a financial advisor, rather than representing opposing parties, they are the wraparound team that join with a whole family to support, nurture, and resource them through a separation. And so the legal advice that you would be getting there is from a position of what is going to support this family unit across two homes, rather than how do we take that person to the cleaners. And so when I say that the family court system is broken, I'm not saying that the legal profession is broken. That lawyers are incredibly important, can be a very, very useful resource right at the start to understand some of the implications of the decisions that you might be thinking about making, and certainly for helping step through the financial separation. Very useful for, certainly there are, I don't know about it in the US, but in Australia there are tax relief concessions that come with having a separation finalised through a lawyer through the court. But in terms of resolving shared care, what school the children should go to, how you do birthdays and Christmases, all of those nuances, that does not belong in a courtroom. And lawyers have to be aware of every letter, that every word that they write, it all has significance, which means that they write terribly. And so often their letters can make things worse. And then if you put them in a courtroom and there's a magistrate who's trying to make a determination, and lawyers fighting against each other, nobody's winning in that scenario. It's more stressful. It's unbelievably expensive. It can cost, over here, it can cost $150,000 to $300,000 to take a matter through to trial. I don't have that amount of money sitting in my bank accounts. And neither do the families that I've served. They're their parents' retirement savings. Yeah, that's what's happening there. And so what I would say to that is well, we know that the research is clear. It damages families. It makes things worse. If we look at that $150,000 kind of price tag and that 4-year window that we talked about, that certainly happens over here. If instead you look at a coaching approach, you're looking at maybe $5,000 across both parties to have a solution that doesn't just look like an agreement that you have to check whether or not you're going to contravene it. It's something that feels good and solid because the two of you have decided upon it together, resourced by a team. And in that context, then you have a coach, someone like myself, who's a developmental specialist. So someone who can actually say, this is, in your circumstance, with the ages and needs of your children and the way that the two of you live your lives, these are some ways that might work to really foster resilience and flexibility in your kids. Lawyers don't have that training. The magistrate, it's not their job to know that stuff. They can just tell you from a legal precedent point of view, and that's not the support that families need. So I would say stay well away from the court process. It is not a friend to families. It was never fit for purpose.
Gotcha. I see. So if someone is wanting to seek out your services, how would they find you? And then do you service people also in the United States or just only in Australia?
No, we are able to support
Okay.
people in the United States. Yes, we are able to work internationally. So I can be found at coparentingcompanion.au or on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn on @coparentingcompanion. And we have a bunch of free resources on our website. We've got details on our starting place, which is our co-parenting reset, and that's what steps people through those 4 foundational pillars. And that's provided both in a self-paced content as well as live coaching calls. And the thing that I love about that is we get to do group coaching calls, so we can bring co-parents together. And I love that because there is so much, there's far more in common between co-parents than what is different. And being able to see each other and hear each other's stories is I mean, it's amazing. It's the stuff that gives me goosebumps when I'm working in that space. And for those who would like continual support, we have a membership to just share that cognitive and emotional load as people step through those next few steps. So there's a wealth of ways that we love to support families, and I would love to be able to chat with people about what we do.
Okay. And just curious as well, when you have those sessions with your co-parenting, who comes to that? What does that look like? Who's all normally there at the session?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So so we never have 2 co-parents from the same family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and absolutely, because whilst I would love for them to find spaces where they can go to ball games and ballet concerts together, I don't want them doing their self-healing and reflecting on who they want to be and what they want to stand for in front of their co-parent. I don't want them in fight flight.
Okay.
Like our coaching calls, we want that to be a context of safety. So yes, we do check who we have in each group to make sure that we always have people in an entirely separate group, so that they don't intermingle with each other at all in that space.
I see. Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong. I believe are you also an author as well?
I've written blogs and articles, but not a book.
Not a okay, gotcha. Okay. All righty. Well, thank you so much for your time here and the
Thank
information that you
you.
have shared with us, Miss Tiffany. Is
Thank
it
you.
any is it anything else you would like to leave us with as you close?
I just am so grateful for this time to be able to talk with you all about something that matters so much on my heart. And no, I think you've given me a lot of time to say all the things that I want to share about. So thank you for that space. It's been really lovely to spend this time with you.
I do. All right, Miss Jamie.
Well,
until next time.
there is strength in sisterhood.
And support in sisterhood.
Bye.
Bye.